Okay, we're back again. This is kind of a tip video. This isn't one of the, it's an instructional video, but it's not one of the ones that's like part of a series. It's just one of the tip items in learning about the CB750. So here's a CB750 case here. We're going to be talking about the head today. Again, always on my journey. My brother from another mother down there, Samba, French Bulldog extraordinaire, hates being in the garage. Maybe I see if he gives me 5. Samba, give me 5, bud. No love today for Dad because he hates being in the garage. So here, let me put this on the GoPro here on my head. So we're going to go through the head here and how to measure the lateral and kind of horizontal freedom of the valve in the guide. It's one of the major things that you'll probably have to do when taking apart an old CB750. It's probably one of the things that almost every CB750 will fail and need to be replaced. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to measure the amount of freedom in this little guide here. This is the valve guide. This is the valve. This is the head, and it's easier on the back. These gold things here are the valve guides. Now this is again for videos for people who've never done this before, and before attempting to put together the CB750, I'd never done this before either. So we're gonna put that in the 4-hole for now, and we're gonna go to the book, and the book's, this is the way that they tell you to do it. The way they tell you to do it is take a dial gauge, set the dial gauge, take this thing out, probably measure it, probably putting it on a block of wood underneath it, and then check the lateral and the horizontal freedom, or the vertical and horizontal freedom that way. But that sucks because it's difficult to set the gauge, it's difficult to set a reading, it's difficult for a bunch of other readings, and one of the real reasons why it's difficult is because the amount that you're looking for is 3/1000ths of an inch, right? I mean, it's just not a lot of play, and it's just not a lot of freedom in the guide, and it's very easy to make a mistake while measuring, and then you'll second guess yourself because you never want to take this thing apart again unless you have to. And it's easier if you take a look at a dial gauge and see how a dial gauge is constructed. So this is the dial gauge, measures back and forth, and each one of these little ticks right here is 1/1000th of an inch, right? So it can go 3 ticks here, and you can see I can't even get it to go, it's really hard to get it to go 3 ticks. So if that's at the 10, to get it to go 3 ticks and to stay at 3 ticks is actually quite difficult. So it's hard, right? So there's an easy way to do it, which is, and I can't take credit for this. This is the way that my machinist told me how to do it, is kind of a quick and dirty way. So really what you're measuring is the amount of play between the valve and the guide, and that play is worn down by that valve going up and down, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of times. And it's gonna just create, it's just gonna make that gap wider and wider and wider, and then eventually the gap will get too big and it'll fail. So one of the ways to measure it is to see if you can have a popping sound as you pull the guide out, using your finger to kind of cover the bottom of the guide. And this one has one, right? Because I've gotten these guides replaced. So here you go. That is a good sound. If you don't hear that sound, then you've got a problem, and you have to replace either the valve and the guide or just the guides. Depending on, you know, what your screw up is. It's probably easier if the valves are good and you measure the valves by the amount of seat they have right here. That's how you measure the valves, how wide this thing is, and this is good. I think it's like 0.05 millimeter or something like that, but I'm not gonna measure it now. And that's basically how that works. You should hear that sound, and that's a good sound. If you don't hear that sound, it's just like a whoosh or no sound at all, then that guide, or the valve and the guide, need to be replaced. All right, so that's, you know, a couple of minutes on how that works. All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.